U.S. President Donald Trump back in Washington after leaving the G7 meetings in Alberta last night. He said to deal with the Middle East crisis. Eric Ham is Washington analyst for CTV News and is with us tonight. Eric, good to see you.
It's good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Let's address the war first. We'll get to the G7 in a moment. Donald Trump says a ceasefire simply isn't good enough. He wants to end the situation. But we don't know what that means, do we?
No, we don't. And the president has been giving mixed signals about this. On one hand, it sounds as though he wants to see this end peacefully, but it also seems as though he's looking for a way to perhaps actually get in this war, send U.S. assets and troops to work with Israel on its ongoing military offensive against Iran. And the president has always talked about getting into endless wars. And so this could be perhaps where the president believes that this would be the move to actually get Iran to a deal. However, I'm not sure that's something that would be necessarily a quick fix in terms of what the president is thinking or even what he is saying. Maybe cooler heads will prevail. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, so how do you think this might play out with U.S. lawmakers, including Republicans, who many are from states who have veterans who endured very long wars in Afghanistan, with the idea of having boots on the ground in another war in that part of the world?
This would really pit the president against MAGA. It would really give us an insight into just how influential and how strong his grip is on his own party. Because again, as you mentioned, Congress is controlled by Republicans. And we also have to remember, they're trying to pass what is called the Big Beautiful Bill Act, which gives enormous tax breaks to the wealthy, but also provides enormous resources to the Pentagon, and it also raises the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. So if the United States is now looking at additional expenditures into what would be a very costly war with Iran, that would certainly be something that would push lawmakers, I think, to the brink. And it would really test if the president would be able to move his party to a place and to a position where they could actually support another endeavor into the Middle East. Only time will tell.
And it was quite an online post he made last night, urging people in Tehran to flee. We saw long lines of vehicles in that city, then suggesting this afternoon that he knows where the supreme leader of Iran is, where he's hunkered down. It's some ominous talk, to be certain. Is it perhaps more bluster, which we hear sometimes from Donald Trump, or what's the feeling in the Beltway there? Are people nervous?
This is where it becomes, I think, problematic when you have a showman who is also a president, because the kind of talk that we're seeing from the president right now certainly isn't helpful in de-escalating the situation. In fact, what we're seeing from the president is, on one hand, he's using carrot and stick approach, but I'm not sure if that's actually going to work in this case. What we're seeing from the president is, on one hand, he's attempting to try to threaten and bully Iran into a deal. And then on the next hand, he's trying to use diplomacy to do the same. And I think what it does is it sends mixed signals and messages, and going so far as to suggest that he could potentially assassinate the supreme leader. I don't know if that's actually going to move Iran to the negotiating table. It might only just force Iran's hand and for them to actually just become increasingly more dug in. But nevertheless, what we're seeing here is Iran is still a country that has to save face. They're in a back and forth with Israel, and they already believe that the United States has given tacit approval and is working very closely hand in hand with Israel in these ongoing military attacks. And so what the president is doing right now is not giving a clear indication as to where the United States stand. And I think at some point, he's going to have to choose a side. Is he for peace or is he for war?
Mm-hmm. Let's back up a bit to the time he did spend at the G7. And it was interesting that he made the comment with Prime Minister Mark Carney that he saw his focus during his time in Alberta to be spent on the Canada-U.S. trade situation. It gave some indication that the talks that we've heard about that have been alluded to were coming to something of a head. What are you hearing in Washington? Are talks close to something that might be revealed, or is it still the lingering process?
No, again, we're still talking about the Trump administration. So even when they say that there's a deal, even when they say there's talks, that never means that there's actually something percolating that could actually lead to a promising outcome. But this is, I think, is as far as both countries will get. And I think both sides will take it as a win, at least for now. The president showed a willingness and a sign to actually work with Canada. We have to remember Donald Trump has been hostile to its northern neighbor since he won re-election and has continued to do so. Now it appears as though he certainly shows an enormous amount of respect for Mark Carney. And in addition to that, I think the fact that he has said that he's willing and that he believes that they can get to a deal is, I think, a good sign. Now, 30 days is, I'm not sure, enough time to actually work out a fulsome arrangement. But it certainly gives, I think, both nations something to work with heading into or coming out of the G7. And also, I think we have to admit that this was certainly a massive ambition for the prime minister to lead this G7 summit. And I think while all eyes were certainly on Donald Trump, I think we can still say that Mark Carney came out of this summit definitely a winner, even with the abrupt exit by Donald Trump.
All right, Eric Ham, always helping us make sense of what's going on down there in the Beltway, Washington, D.C. Thanks a lot. Good to see you. We'll talk again.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We're back in 2 minutes.